Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. On today's show, we're going to talk about the very serious topic about student mental health. How do you support students that are in your school that you might not know are struggling deep inside? I have a guest on today from a fantastic company called GoGuardian, who's here to show off some of the new technology that's coming out and how machine learning is being able to help students solve some of their issues before they know that issues are actually available. She's got some amazing stories to share. I hope you guys have a chance to check out this full episode and share it with the people in your school district. This is one of my favorite interviews that I have done in quite some time, and I'm so glad you're here. If you guys are looking for other episodes of TeacherCast, maybe this is the first time you're listening to our show, head on over to teachercast.net/podcast. Check us out. Every single audio and video show is available both on our YouTube channel and over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you guys get your audio shows. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe and share TeacherCast with everybody else. Over the last few shows, we've had a running theme of mental health and helping students really get through the school year. Honestly, I should really be saying students and teachers getting through the year. Let's face it, guys, we are more than halfway through the school year. That's why I'm so excited to have my guest on the show today. She is a mental health professional who's been in the mental health area for more than 30 years supporting K-12 education. And currently, she's also a mental health strategist for a fantastic company called GoGuardian. I'm thrilled to bring on today Miss Tracy Clements. Tracy, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited that you are here today. You know, there's so much buzz out there on the Twitters, on the Blue Skies, on the LinkedIns, all about making sure that our students not only are engaged in our classrooms and engaged in the lessons that we're teaching, but making sure that when they are coming into our classrooms, they are mentally as healthy as can be. I know this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart, and I'm happy that you're here to talk about all this. Talk to us a little bit about your background and why now is this the best time to be having these conversations about student mental health?
A little bit about my background. I have been serving children in the mental health arena for about a little over 30 years, and I started out in the private sector and spent about 15 years in the school realm. And the school realm was just wonderful because you can do so much prevention. And prevention has really become my heart. And I think a lot of times people look at mental health and academics as separate. But the way I view it is mentally healthy kids are better able to learn and retain information. So that academics and mental health need to go hand in hand.
That is absolutely 100% true. If a student is not ready to learn, it's really difficult to help them learn. And it doesn't matter if it's a student going down the regular track, the student going down the special education track, making sure that our educational professionals are able to support them is one of the most important things I think any school district can do. Talk to us a little bit about what the state of, I don't really want to ask the question of state of mental health. That's a kind of a weird question to start with, Tracy, but you know what? I'll leave it with you. What questions should we be asking in this field right now?
You know, I think a lot of people have begun to focus on mental health since the pandemic. And I feel like we get a lot of the sky is falling when people look at the state of mental health. I've been doing this for a long time, and this is not new. Kids were struggling, teachers were struggling, humans in general have been struggling with mental health for a long time. And mainstream society is starting to look at it more honestly now, which I think is good for my profession. People are starting to pay more attention. But I don't think this is a new problem. It's exacerbated. But there's no magic bullet to fix it. I think it's putting one foot in front of the other and using the resources you have and finding innovative ways to address the needs of mental health, both for students and staff.
As a middle school teacher and somebody who works with kids in grades 6 through 8 every single day, one of the questions that I often ask myself is, how can I identify when a student needs support? Followed very quickly by, okay, if I find something, what do I do with it? What do you say to everybody out there who's listening who says, I know there's things going on. I'm not blind to this, but I just don't know what some of the warning signs are.
So the warning signs are varied, and it basically boils down to a change in the way that child was interacting prior. So if it's a child who's very outgoing, if they become more withdrawn, if it's a child who's very withdrawn, maybe they've become more talkative or they're having some behavioral issues. So just a change in previous level of functioning. And what can you do? First of all, see them. Just see them, let them know that you care. If you look at the Harvard resilience studies, some of the biggest things you can do to build resilience in a child are things like making eye contact, using their first name, smiling at them, and just if you don't know what to do, just say, I care. Building those connections is I believe the biggest thing you can do to help support students and your fellow staff with their mental health, just being seen and heard and understood.
One of the fears that I have in this particular time in the school year is that, I mean, as the time of recording this right now, I have like 3 more classes with my kids, and then the semester changes. I have 200 brand new smiles coming into my room. My job as an educator is to figure out who they are, get their first names, like you said, as quickly as possible, start to build those rapports. How can we figure out, as educational professionals, which students are struggling mentally? Is there a difference? And how should we be approaching this in the classroom when we're not the ones that are trained maybe as well as somebody in your position that was trained?
Yeah. So from a teacher perspective, you just have to learn as quickly as you can. Schools also need to build a system of support with school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers. And those professionals should be building systems of support. So things like universal screeners and a system for kids to reach out and ask for help. And in particular, the product that brought me to GoGuardian is called Beacon. And we used Beacon in my former school district to help identify kids who might be struggling with mental health that we might miss through the universal screeners or training teachers, things like that. So having a multi-layered system to identify kids, teachers have a lot on their plates. And I definitely want to encourage kids to help build those relationships and improve climate and all of that. But there needs to be another system in place beyond one more thing for teachers.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that system because if a teacher does notice something, and let's preference, every school district is different, right? Every school district has their own norms, etc. Should a teacher's first step be home, or should a teacher's first step be counselors?
I would recommend the teacher's first step be the counselors, because the counselors may be aware of additional context, and they may be able to help make that contact with home be a little more successful.
So Tracy, look, obviously getting these systems in place is really, really important. What kinds of things can school districts do to make sure that these systems are set up for their buildings, for their counselors?
So I recommend starting with taking a good look at what you already have in place. A lot of times you've got some good parts and pieces there, but maybe they're siloed. Maybe they're not being communicated cross-departmentally like they need to. So just looking to see what you have and then starting to build from there. There's obviously not unlimited money in a school district. So using the resources you have and just starting is what's most important. And I think a lot of times, like when I was still in the school district, it was hard because I had this ideal of what I wanted to do. And there were so many parts and pieces that it became overwhelming and hard to start. But I think you just have to make that start.
Now, there's several great solutions that are available for school districts. You had mentioned one called GoGuardian Beacon. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So, GoGuardian Beacon is a machine learning tool that lives in the background of student devices and uses machine learning to identify if they may be struggling with mental health concerns or with concerns of violence. With Beacon, you create a list of people for the system to notify. So, according to each building, you have your escalation list. And then at the district level, I was on all of them. But it picks up when kids are starting to struggle, and it does it in a way that is different than those other layers. What I found to be most helpful about it was it identifies kids before they start to show signs outwardly. So for a teacher to recognize that there's a problem, the behavior has to have already changed. But sometimes Beacon was able to pick up on kids. Maybe they're searching in, like they're Google searching for, what do I do if I can't sleep at night? How do you know if you're depressed? How do I help my friend who's getting bullied? And because kids turn to Google much sooner than they turn to the adults around them. So we were able to pick up on those warning signs and intervene further upstream, which saved us so much time, and it saved the kids from having to go further along that continuum of struggling.
That's got to be very rewarding to have a system on your side from the district point of view, from the teacher point of view, and also from the parent point of view, knowing that something is out there supporting them.
Yeah, it took a huge weight off of my shoulders because my job as the director of counseling was to identify and intervene in crisis situations and to build up a better system of support. And I felt like Beacon was kind of just my own little personal assistant. I didn't have to be everywhere seeing everything. It helped me with that. And initially I was hesitant when our tech director brought it to my attention. I didn't really want to try it. And he turned it on anyway. And I am so happy to acknowledge that I have never been so wrong. It helped us identify crisis situations. It helped us identify things sooner. It was just helpful in a multitude of ways.
Talk to us a little bit about some of that feedback that you've gotten. I know you've worked with parents out there. When you show this off to school communities, what is some of the feedback that you get?
Some of my personal feedback, I was at Walmart just the other night, and there was a mom of a student who took her own life in April of 2022, end of March, 1st of April. And we hugged in Walmart because about a year prior to that, we had gotten a beacon alert on her daughter and were able to intervene. And from her words, she says we gave her another year with her daughter. The very first meaningful alert I got was a little girl who was Googling, how much Tylenol does it take to die? And I tried to call her parents and they didn't answer. They didn't recognize my phone number, so they didn't answer. I tried to call our school resource officer. He didn't answer. So I just ended up driving over to the house. And when I knocked on the door, the little girl recognized me from school, and I asked if she knew why I was there. And she just started crying and said, because I'm about to kill myself. And I said, okay, sweetie, you need to call your parents. We need to get them here. And when we went in and sat down at the kitchen table, she had the bottle of Tylenol and a big cup of water out. When her parents got there, they, were of course very upset. And her mom just kept asking, how did you know? How did you know? And I told her that we had this new program, and she was just like beside herself because nobody recognized that this little girl was struggling. She put on a good mask, and she had slipped through the cracks otherwise. And it was that incident that made me just fully embrace it. And I was like, this is something that all schools need. My own personal mission is that all kids are protected by a system like Beacon. If it's not Beacon, they need to have something in place. because kids are using devices more and more, and we need to identify those concerns online.
Honestly, Tracy, I don't know where to go from here because that is just an amazing set of stories there that you just shared. And I think anybody that's out there listening that is in a school district or is a parent of younger students or any students at this point really should be working with their school districts to figure out how do we set something up, whether it be at home or at school. And obviously, as you mentioned, having a system like that, it's effective both in school and out of school, correct?
Yes. And you mentioned parents talking to schools. That is one of the key components to making this successful. It has to be done with complete transparency, and it has to be done with respect. It's really important that the school talk openly with the parents about these systems and how they're using them, and get feedback from. We had a mental health committee, and we had students, we had parents, we had local business owners, physicians, like anyone who would show up. But you need voices from all across your community so that you're doing it well and you're meeting the needs of your particular community.
What should parents be asking for when they reach out to their local school districts?
Do you have a monitoring and an alerting tool in place? And if you do, how is it used? What information can you share with me about that tool? Like, what kind of alerts does it surface? Who gets those alerts? What's your procedure and protocol for addressing those alerts?
You know, I mentioned this to you before we started recording. I've had a very good relationship over the last 13 years with a company, with GoGuardian. And most people, I think, when they hear GoGuardian, they think it's the company that monitors Chromebooks so that way kids are not cheating during tests. But clearly, with a piece of technology like Beacon, it is so much more than just monitoring during the class period.
Yes, my impression of GoGuardian was exactly what you said. So when our tech director said, "Hey, I got this GoGuardian thing for you," I actually said to him, "Scott, I don't GoGuardian. That's your world." And I didn't understand that this was truly a mental health tool. So I think a lot of people misunderstand that this is not it's a mental health tool based in technology. This is not a tool for the tech team. This is a tool for the people who are addressing mental health.
I'm sure that somebody out there listening right now is curious about how to get in touch with you and how to reach out and how to get more information about the work that you're doing, and then talk about the technology. But let's just kind of break this down. If parents, if students, if school caregivers are out there listening, how do they get in touch with you?
So our website is goguardian.com, and on the website you can request a contact, or if you would like to get directly in contact with me, my email is tclements, CLEMENTS @goguardian.com.
And we're going to make sure that we have the links to this and all of our other GoGuardian and GoGuardian Beacon resources over on our show notes. Again, this is Digital Learning Today. You can find out more information over at teachercast.net/podcast and check out all the great stuff on our show notes. Tracy, as we head more into the ending of the school year, I know there's a lot of fear that the school year is going to be out. These devices are not going to be in the hands of their students. What do you say to school districts and parents when it comes to what do we do over the long extended break?
Hopefully you have been able to identify kids who are struggling before they get too far down that path. Continue all of those little pieces. Trauma-informed schools teaches some wonderful lessons. Look at the resilience work, and just make sure kids feel like they belong and like they have a voice.
Very good advice. Tracy, one more time, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I would love to invite you back and do a longer show, maybe with some other healthcare professionals, but I think this is a topic that, clearly one of the most important things that we can be talking about this year in education.
Thank you so much for having me, and I am always willing to talk about how we can make the world a brighter place for kids.
You know, for the last 13 years, we've been talking about educational technology, how to bring it into the school districts, how to implement it in the classroom, and how to be dynamic in the classes. But most importantly, it's how do we keep our kids safe and healthy? And that is where a program such as GoGuardian Beacon comes in. You can find out more information over at GoGuardian.com. And again, all of our show notes and links are going to be available over at Digital Learning Today. You can find out more information at teachercast.net/podcast. Tracy, one more time, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this episode of Digital Learning Today. Want to say thank you guys. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. You can find this over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your audio shows, and of course, teachercast.net/YouTube. You can check out all of our video episodes of this and all of our programs. And that wraps up this episode. On behalf of Tracy and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.